Welcome, Hayden Wilde. By way of introduction, this is Huw Darnell, strength and conditioning coach, exercise physiologist, and Huw joined the Physical Performance Show in June this year as a partner. This will be about episode 375, so we started in 2016 and the show really took off. I think it's amassed 4.5 million downloads over the years, and up until recently we were weekly, and we're getting back on weekly now. So thank you everyone for coming along. So we're going to kick it off just by a little bit of background. So Hayden, you're in Australia. What brings you out to Australia for this trip?
Yeah, hey guys, thanks. First off, thanks for coming, supporting Brad, and it's nice to be here and get the opportunity to talk in front of you guys today. But the reason for coming to the Gold Coast, I wanted to do some rehab with Brad and also catch up. As you know, had a big crash in May and still kind of recovering from that. So just thought I'd come and get some numbers from Brad. He's got some amazing facilities here, and we've known each other probably since 2016-17. When I first started Super Try, but stay for a few weeks and head to Wollongong tomorrow for a double header Saturday and Sunday as I race the T100 and the World Series. So it's been nice. Had spent 5 days in Noosa, dropped my partner off there as there's a British squad there, and she's joining them, and then I thought I'd come here and as I said, train with some of my mates, some good swimmers here, and to beat me up around the cans, and it's been good.
So we've got you for tonight, one night only, and then off to Wollongong tomorrow. Those that are already interested will possibly know your backstory, but a young Hayden Wilde, we'll see some pictures flashing through the slideshow as we go of you racing, but it was you're always destined, here he is here, for endurance sports. So can you just talk a little bit about how you got started in endurance sports, and could that boy ever dream of what you've thus far achieved?
What an aero position that is. But so when I first got into essentially this sort of realm of sports, so I used to do hockey, football, ultimate frisbee, cricket, pretty much everything under the sun. And I just wanted to get fit for my position. I was playing for under-19s New Zealand for hockey, and I was wanting to get a little bit more fitter. So I decided to kind of invest a little bit into doing some multi-sport and some running with some mates. So what multi-sport is, essentially, is like a bike. We either start with a bike and then a kayak and then a run. So there was no swim element in my kind of career at that point. So that was when I was like 15, 16, just trying to get fit and doing event races that could expand up to orienteering from 6 hours to 12 hours. So I was quite already indulging into endurance sports. And then from there, my teacher just came up to me and said, there's like an Xterra event in Rotorua, you should go and join. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a go, but I've never swum. So that's a bit of an issue. But I got in touch with an older guy called Eddie. He was quite a known swimmer on Whakatāne. And from there, he kind of taught me the key components of how to swim with a long stroke, and at that point I was swimming 24-25 minutes for a 1500, so not too sharp, and then I met a guy called Kieran Coates who was representing New Zealand relatively well. He won actually in Auckland when you did the World Triathlon there, and when it was in Auckland for the grand final, so he won the under-19s, so it was a good company to be around. And did my first Xterra event. Didn't have a great swim, but was able to kind of claw that back on the mountain bike and the run, and won my first race for a national title, which was cool. And from there, I was able to qualify for Maui for the Xterra World Champs, and fast forward there, decided to go full time in the Xterra scene. So I was. First time was in Maui was as a junior under 19 and then under 23s, and then went back for under 23s and was successful in all three, which was really cool to go back to back to back. I kind of got to a point where I did a few pro races in Xterra, and that was about 2016, and I really wanted to get to the Olympics, but Xterra wasn't going to get me to that point, as it's off-road and on-road triathlon is in the Olympics. So that's when I decided to make the switch, and moving from Whakatāne to Tauranga to get a part-time job as a landscaper to fund my career, as I wasn't part of High Performance New Zealand and wasn't part of Triathlon New Zealand at that point. And I didn't really want my parents to fund me as well, because It was my ambition, it was my career, so I really wanted to do it myself. And of course, your parents are always going to help, but I really just wanted to get it down and do it myself. So since 2016 to about 2019, so kind of still around that Tokyo Olympic area, I was had a part-time job, as I said, as a landscaper, swimming at 5 a.m., working about 6 hours from Monday to Friday, and then also training in the afternoon. So I was doing about 30 to 35 hours of work and about 20 hours of training at that point. And in 2018, where I started to see some results, I raced the Tokyo test event. So what a test event is essentially you get to go into the Olympic course before the big event. And was feeling really good. Got third place there, and from there I decided to go to put all my biscuits in one bowl and to go full time into triathlon. And then got second in Mooloolaba the year of the Olympics, and then COVID hit. But it gave me the opportunity to kind of knuckle down extra and really start honing in on my swim. So it was pretty much like a full year of pretty intense training, and then of course we were finally able to get out of COVID, and then was selected for the New Zealand team for the Olympics. And from there was just my goal was just to get to the team. Before COVID I had 3 years to do it, and due to COVID, got 4 years to do it, which was quite nice. And then the rest is history with Olympic medal in Tokyo, which was really cool. And then 4 years later going to Paris and backing it up for a silver. So it's been a bit of a journey, but it's been really cool.
Huw, I was just going to quickly add something just to that growing up years because I think it adds context to who you are. And I like that saying, biscuits in one bowl. Haven't heard that, but all the biscuits in the bowl. But growing up, I bet your mum Sarah and your stepdad James, and there's 3 brothers in the family, and mum's a hairdresser. She's always been a hairdresser, correct? Yep. Growing up, and then you lost your father as a teenage young man. Well, how did that impact family life?
Yeah, it was when I was super young, and I don't mind talking about it at all. So, and if you've seen me race, I've got a tattoo on my back. So, when I was about 10 years old, my dad passed away in a pilot accident. So I was quite young, so I didn't really know what was going on, but also had that initial feeling of you're kind of old enough to know what happened. And from there it kind of just shaped me, and I really wanted to kind of follow my brothers in their footsteps. So this is why I was playing hockey and cricket and everything like this. And then from there I didn't want to be that sheep anymore and follow my brothers. I just wanted to kind of get out of my comfort zone and try something new. And then that's when I started to kind of get into the multi-sport area. And I just started to really, really enjoy it. And it was something my brothers weren't doing. They were super successful and representing New Zealand for cricket and football, and I wasn't quite there yet in that sense, and I really wanted to do something on my own 2 feet, and that's where I really started to look into that. And then I guess over the years as well, right? Like you miss all the parts where you fly to Europe by yourself and you do all these things by yourself. And at this point, I still really wasn't in High Performance New Zealand or Triathlon New Zealand. So there's a lot of kind of looking after yourself. And I was really lucky at some points. My first trip to Europe, where I actually stayed in Switzerland with a good friend of mine who was an exchange student, and I just slept on a couch, and that was great at a family house just out of Zurich. And then my next spot was just outside of Munich as well, with another exchange student friend of mine who was just in uni halls in Germany, and I just stay in his place in Munich. And then you'd go and race the World Series in Hamburg, and you were just couch surfing. And I think it resonates super well if a guy called Bevan Doherty, who's a New Zealand Olympic medalist as well in the triathlon. And one thing he always said was he'd go to Europe and he would pretty much race every week. So if he raced well, he could then go to the next race and fund that trip to the next race, and you'd just do that. And that's what I was kind of doing. And we put up some stats when I first started to where I am now. And when I first started and got to Europe, I was racing more or less about 20, 25 times per year. and then now we're at about 8 to 10 per year. So it's quite interesting how the dynamics change within the years. The more the better you get, the more experience you get, the more financially sound you get. You can then target more races, and I think that's when the high performance kind of starts coming in. You really target races, and you're not traveling, silly long hours and getting the cheapest flights. You're kind of looking after yourself and making good decisions.
And
so that's kind of how I feel that, with my dad's passing, but then also learning from my brothers that you sometimes just look after yourself. And I think that's another reason why I train by myself so often, is I've just been so used to kind of doing my own thing by myself and just looking after myself. But now, obviously you kind of got to be less stubborn and let people within your circle, and obviously yourself, my coaches, and then my team as well, is now this massive circle of, probably 8 to 10 people strong, working in the background to try and get me back to the finish line, and also to try and win races.
Super interesting backstory, and some of the parallels around having, a landscaping job, doing big hours, probably not the easiest line of work you could choose being an endurance athlete.
I didn't have to go to the gym though, so that's brilliant.
Great cross training, general prep. What I was going to mention, and Craig Bellamy from Melbourne Storm in Australia has the same kind of mentality around young athletes going out and having like an apprenticeship or a trade during their pre-season, when they're probably in their heaviest block of training. How do you feel? I've only met you this evening, but from Brad speaks so highly of you, and like the outside community holds you in high regard, being quite a humble guy for being probably one of the best athletes in the sport. How much of your humble beginnings do you put to your work ethic, your appreciation for what you have, and how you hold yourself day to day?
Yeah, like I just see myself as a normal person. Like I guess blessed with an awesome job. I get to travel the world and see the world in a different view. And I always know that, I'm just a kid from Whakatāne like that, and that will never change. And it definitely helps when I have two older brothers to keep me stable as well. And if I do something really good, they always nitpick and say I did pretty average there. And I've just got an awesome team that always keeps me relatively level-headed. And but yeah, it's just like, I just come from like definitely a place where we didn't grow up with a lot of money, and I didn't really want to with all this big success change as a person. And I think that's like super important. It's definitely for me to you can have all the success, but the biggest goal for me personally was to never change as a person, and that's going back to my roots and going back to Whakatāne and helping kids develop from a young age, and help them at the track and go down to the swimming pool and kind of meet up with old friends, and and just be open and be comfortable to other people, and just having conversations with everyone, because sometimes people come up to you and they're just like, they just like glare through you, and you can just see them glaring through your soul, and you kind of just walk up to them and you just have try and have a conversation with them and just act like a normal person, right? Like and I think that's like super important, and just never lose sight of your roots, I think is super important. And I think that helps when you improve as an athlete as well, because I feel like there is always, when you're at the top, there's a lot of noise up there, and if you can really pull back and look around, like you're just like you're just a small grain of salt in the sand pile, right? Like I'm no bigger than anyone in this room. Like I just have a good opportunity. I have good genetics, I guess, and I'm trying to use that as much as possible, and trying to entertain people, I guess, is a cool thing too.
Well, I think on the circuit there, you're always definitely one that entertains. And I mean, I didn't start with your biography, your accolades, but I think most of us here would obviously appreciate the bronze medal in Tokyo during COVID, where Tokyo as an Olympics. And Jazz, who's been helping here tonight, up back Jazz race for Australia there at the Olympics, and I've heard the stories of how it was such a strange games, and there was no crowd and infections, and
Yeah, it was pretty weird.
and as you said, you'd finished third in that test event 1 year before on that course, and then came back. Christian Blumenfeld got the gold, Alex Yee silver, yourself bronze. And then from there, you launched with only 3 years for the next Olympic cycle into Paris. And I think we all watched Paris unfold on the streets, and I had the fortune of spending circa a month in the pre-camp up in Andorra, which we'll touch on. But I guess a lot of us want to know about the race, and I know you've spoken about it on various platforms and forums. And I think we did have a clip for just the last minute or two of a race.
I hope it doesn't traumatise you.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I've lived through the experience too many times. It's part of my life now.
Also, love it how you just glazed over world champion, Olympic bronze, Olympic silver. Pretty special accolades there.
And you should be able to see Brad with no shirt on at this point.
Finished, and maybe he's back for a few seconds, but at this point in your head, you think you're going to win. Look at Yee coming back.
Yee has definitely gained ground on Wild. Wow, look at this. Yee is coming back to Hayden. This is absolutely astonishing. He was down and out a few moments ago, and now he's within about 5 metres and gaining on the New Zealander. Where has he found this from? And Alex Yee goes in front now. How on earth has he found the energy to do that unless Wild has come back? But Yee is now striding away. This is absolutely astonishing. It looked like the Brit had no chance. And now he's on the blue carpet, and he's made it count where it really matters. Wild is going to have to settle for second. Well, Yee clearly thought he could still get to Wild, and he's been proved right. It's been an unbelievable race, and against all the odds, from about 400 metres back, Alex Yee wins gold for Great Britain. Wild, who was in front for so long, will have to settle for silver. And Leo Berger will win France's first ever individual triathlon medal. He will take bronze. I can't believe...
Rough. But yeah, what a moment. What a moment.
Well, I mean, obviously we want to throw you the mic, but I think the whole world was stunned, and we certainly were on the sidelines. We were just quite close to the finish there, and you established that commanding lead for the first 3 laps of that 4-lap run course. And I was next to your manager, Simon Bailiff, and he organised a whole lot for that pre-camp, and we had your family on the other side of the road, and we were on the other side of the road, and we were, carrying on. And then that last lap you ran past, you were still in the lead, and then literally out of nowhere, and there's a video on my socials, and I didn't share it for about a year, and it was like, I swore, holy, Yee's coming. And Milan Agnew, Australian triathlete, she was on the fence next to me, and then by the time you come back 100, 200 metres up the road, he'd just made the pass right in front of your family and the whole team that were there for the pre-camp. So, I mean, what was going through your mind, or was there nothing going through your mind? Can you just unpack the whole race maybe?
Yeah, so I guess looking a few days before the race, there was a lot of speculation whether we'll race. On the was it Thursday or the Friday? So we were waiting inside. I guess just our pre-camp with the New Zealand team just outside of the village, as we decided to stay outside of the village for the few days. And yeah, we got the confirmation that the race might be postponed, which we kind of knew a year out that that might be the possibility that the race might be postponed. So that wasn't really a big issue. And then, so yeah, we woke up at 3 a.m. and we saw that the race was postponed. and no worries. Like we kind of, as I said, we had like protocol in place just to make sure that if it was happening, that it was the next day. Like for example, we came down from altitude a little bit later, because we knew that if there was that slight opportunity that would be postponed, that we won't be altitude delayed. If you're on altitude and you come down too early, you feel a bit gassed. If you come down too late, you feel a bit gassed. So we were having this 1 to 4 day window where you kind of hit prime peak coming out of altitude. And so then we just had to fluff around for a whole day. And then obviously we got an email that night before the race, and they said, you'll be racing after the female. And that kind of put a massive spanner in the works for me personally, as I was in altitude. I was doing a lot of racing and training up there. And the issue with that is for about 2 months, I was going to bed at about 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and I'll be waking up at about 3 for about a good month. And so I pretty much like set my body to be ready to go at 7 a.m., which was the race day. And then another one was that the heat will completely change. So being in Andorra, it was 2,400 meters, so I really never got that heat adaptation that I would normally go into a race. And I normally back myself quite well into a really hot race, but when you do no training for a specific hot race, it really kind of puts a bit of a spanner in the works. And unfortunately for us, we woke up and it was pouring down with rain, and the girls' races was on, and we were kind of just watching it. And then all of a sudden, halfway through the ladies' race, the sun came out, and then it just became extremely humid. So for Brad and the team, they had to pretty much be out there before the women race, because they had to kind of cement their spot on the side of the race. And so they were there at about 4 a.m. And then obviously they had to watch the race. They got soaking wet from the rain, and then it completely dried up, and then they got soaking wet again from the humidity. So it was about 35 degrees that day. It was probably the hottest day in Europe recorded that year, which was a nightmare. It was about 95% humidity due to being like congested inside Paris with the hot tarmac. But as soon as we started racing, it was one of those ones where you just actually didn't notice the heat at all. The swim was relatively rough. With the Olympic, it's quite special. You do a 1,000-meter lap, and then you do a 500-meter lap. Generically, it's 750. So that's quite special, where when you do the first lap, you kind of get out and you're like, sweet, that's probably a good 70% of the swim done, and you've only got a little bit to go. Got out. It was a real, as you know, like swimming in the sand. It was a super strange swim for everyone to experience. A lot of the guys that would normally beat me out of the water were behind me, and then a lot of guys that I would beat out of the water were in front of me, and it was all about positioning and how smart you were in the water. And I was more or less about a minute, but I wasn't too concerned, just because from me to the front of the race, it was just it was a massive long line, and by the time we got into the second lap, we were more or less only about 30 seconds behind. And then so throughout the race, we were slowly ticking over time. I was in a group of Christian Blumenfeld and a few others, so I was pretty confident that we had a good group of guys working together. We did have a safety plan, a parachute for me at one point, where if the gap wasn't really coming down, my teammate Dylan McCulloch would come back and support me as a domestique role, as part of the Triathlon New Zealand policy was that if none of the other guys could qualify, it would go down to a discretional pick, and that would come down to an optional domestique pick. So with New Zealand, we got two spots, 2 male, 2 female, through the mixed team relay. So that gave us our second spot. So at one point, we actually only qualified one male, but since we were very high ranked in the mixed team relay, we were able to get 2. So that's when Dylan's role came in, and he came back and sacrificed his position in the front group to help tow the group up. And I think when the front group got word that Dylan came back to support me and do a Hail Mary turn on the front and got us back in one lap, we were back in the front group and it was game on, and we still had probably about 25k to go, and from there, gave Dylan a pat on the back and thanks, mate, and then I said, just race your own race now, and that's what we did, and just now was just to be safe, stay out of the wind, and get ready for a running racing, because everyone was there. All the favourites were ready to have a bit of a dance and on the Champs-Élysées, which was really cool, and coming onto the run, feeling pretty fresh and really good, and getting ready to just to have a bit of a showdown, and came out of the transition actually feeling super good and bridged the gap, and I had a time in mind that I really wanted to run, and that I was training for. I was training for about a 28:30 off the bike, and in training I knew personally, and I had like the confidence that I could do this, so I just went out of that pace and held it, and at that point Alex and I had already made quite a relatively big gap, and I worked out that there was many races that Alex and I did together, and there's a point where we get to about 3k and he'll take control and he'll slow the pace down to kind of, I guess, recover. So over the few races through that season, I kind of remembered that, and my coach at the time, Craig, we kind of used that. So when we got to the 3k point, the same thing happened. The pace actually slowed down, but that's when I did a little bit of a surge and just kind of kept that 250 pace for about 500 meters to a can. I looked back and it was gone. I was like, I wasn't really expecting that, to be honest. So I just kind of carried on. I was like, at that point, I didn't know how hot it was or anything. I was just like like a dog, ears pinned back. Just go for it. And then so, lap one went and we were still kind of beside each other, and lap two, and that's when I got the gap, and I had about a 15, 16 second gap, and I was there. Obviously you're in the middle of Paris and you're in the Olympic Games. It's the biggest race in the world for us, and you're looking around, there's just hundreds and thousands, millions of people around, and you've just really got to zone in and focus on yourself. And I said to myself, right, third lap, you've got a 15 second gap, just pull back and just conserve the third lap, and then the fourth lap just rip it and give it some. And then so I went from holding that 248, 250 pace for the first two laps, and then going on to the third lap, I pulled it back to about 305s, and I was feeling actually really good into that third lap, and I was like, sweet, I should have enough in the tank to bring it home. And then got into the fourth lap, and the bell went, and I was like, right, it's time to kick down and get back into that that 255 3-minute pace, because I was doing, at that point I was calculating, I was like, I got 20 seconds, he's going to run 245 pace to catch me, and I was doing all this with the last lap to go. I had 1800 meters or something. I was like, right, just rip. And then so if I hold this pace, I'll be sweet. And then I tried to floor it, and I was like, there's nothing there, and I was like, oh no, I'm in trouble here. And then so I was like, okay, just keep this pace and see how you go, and just keep grinding along. And then you kind of get halfway through the run lap, and I was like, oh, I'm like absolutely like, I was just so depleted. Like, I think the humidity got to me, and what humidity does to you in a race. If you're just tickling that red line for hours, essentially your internals just start blowing up, and that's pretty much what's happening. I got to a K to go, and at this point I was running about 320s, 330s, and I was definitely feeling it. And I was just like, head down, come on, like you've trained for this for what, 3.5 years, and you just want to keep grinding along. And there was this little kicker over the bridge, and I was like, just get over that, and then it's slightly downhill all the way, and then just try to put my ears back and try to run, but you just kind of get to a place where your legs kind of fall underneath you, and I was just trying to run. I was like, oh no, I'm running at 330 pace here, this is not going to look back. And I was like, oh dear, they're catching me. And I ran down the hill, and I turned around, and obviously Alex was there, and then I just tried to give it one more surge, and that was just me done, really. So yeah, it's kind of how the race planned out in my head. Was just unfortunately just didn't do the training, just got one thing wrong in the prep, I think, personally, and and that's what cost me the race. But you live and you learn, and I was proud of the way I raced, and I wouldn't take it back. Like, that's the way I like to race. I like to race off the front and like to race aggressively. And it bit me in the ass a little bit, but I still can't complain with another Olympic medal. But hopefully in LA we can kind of dial it up and go for the goal. But no, it was an amazing race, and just got, as I said, got beaten by the better man. And I was super proud of the way I raced, and I wouldn't change it. So that's kind of how I looked at that race. But that was quite interesting.
And Huey, I'll throw to you. I was just going to comment quickly. That finish, we didn't see it at the end, but then you sat down next to Alex in the moment, put your arm around him, and that became one of the images of the games for sportsmanship. That was beamed everywhere. I think if talk about a good advertisement for the sport of triathlon, that was it. Quite a moment.
Yeah, Alex and I had a good, we've had many battles. And we've normally, both of us, we've come up to, heading into Wollongong now. Like, I'm not really in contention due to the events for me this year, but I've led into 3 World Series, either first or second, by a relatively good margin, and just fumbled it on the last race. And that's World Series racing. You can have a stellar year, but that last race can really just derail everything. And I went up to Alex and I said, we didn't choke this time, because we're both of us always first or second coming into the World Series, but never won a world title. The both of us over the 4 years, and it was just really nice that we could, deliver on one of the big days. And obviously, further on, he won the world title that year as well. And then that end of year in Torremolinos, I pretty much had the race that I wanted to have in the Olympics, where I came out of the water in 8th place, probably my best swim in my career, and then we got a breakaway of 5 guys with a 3-minute lead, and then ran away and won by I think about 4 minutes that day for the grand final. But how the ranking points go is Alex needed to get 7th and Leo needed to get 3rd, so I was always going to be in a bad position. But it was really cool to really kind of have that race that I was super proud of having at the end of the year, after kind of that I guess implosion at the Olympics.
But what is going through your mind, like that moment when he makes the pass, and if you don't want to relive it, that's totally fine. But because you're struggling, and then you're so close to the finish, and then he gets you at that point. Yeah,
I think it was a mix of emotions, right? Like you're low key, like a little bit teary, like 3.5 years and you're literally 300 meters short, like bugger, you've got to wait another 4 years. But then also in a reverse role as well, like you don't take those moments for granted, like there's many guys that I've raced that I feel personally that should have an Olympic medal, like Vincent Louis and Mario Mola. Mario's won 5 World Series titles, I've won 0. Vince has won 2, and those guys are probably the best that have ever been through the Olympic sprint, but they've never won an Olympic medal. So to come away with another medal is pretty special, and to have 2 is pretty cool as well. So I definitely can't complain, and of course you always want to hunt and get that gold, but it's just so hard to do try and get all your ducks in a row heading into this one race you train for specifically for, I won't say you specifically train for it for 4 years, but you specifically train for it for, a good 2 years out. And then it's a nice moment where, you didn't get it, but you still had a really, really solid race. You could have, not even been close to the podium. I think it's your worst fear, but, I was just super happy to kind of execute a race that I'm satisfied with. But hopefully I just have enough in the tank for next year. The next one coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to take anything away from an Olympic silver medal, as you said, some of the best in the sport go their whole careers and get nowhere near close to that. So, as the sports science and exercise physiology nerd inside of me is fascinated what you did with Brad and your team up at altitude and in that training camp. Leading into the Olympics. So compared to your, day to day when you're racing and you've got more consistent events potentially on the calendar. What changed in a place like Indora? I know Brad shared a moment where he was on a bike ride. I think it was Richie Port, Cam Worth, and he stuck with him, and he felt validated that he still has an engine. He said you burnt him with another pro up the front, though.
It was impressive. We were climbing up Colt de Ordino, which is about an 8%, 9% climb for about 8K. And you got Richie Port, Cameron Worth, and you got a couple other guys and myself. And like we're just, yarning along, and Cam and Richie, Richie still got it, but we're pushing probably, for me, it was about 67, 66 kgs at that point. And we're pushing like 280 watts. Brad, more or less, probably, around 85 around that time.
Yeah, lean 85.
Yeah, lean 85. He's just out there. The funniest thing I think was, we're climbing up the climb, and we could just see Brad suffering, because like I knew that he was pushing probably like 350 watts for about an hour. And but the best part was like that night he slips in to the group chat that we had with our team, and he's got us like taking a video of the guys riding up, and I don't think he realised that the volume was on. So then you crank the volume on. He's like. Is just recording everyone like it was the best thing ever. We got to the top, and he was like, and we were just all taking a toilet break and nature break, and he was like, oh, the see you boys at the bottom, I'll get a head start. And then you could just see he was a bit white, and we met him at the bottom. But that was a good ride that day. But it was good fun.
I think that was 30 years of participation in the sport. That was probably my favourite ride ever. I was at the back and relatively, not peak fitness, and I'm like, oh, this is tough. You've got yourself just before the Olympics a few weeks, and those pro guys, and I was hurting big time. But I think, like Hugh, said, it was and I think for context, many people wouldn't realise the investment you made in terms of your manager Simon, who I mentioned was on the fence at the Olympics. We were camped with Simon and his family. And Simon had just come from the Tour de France, where Mark Cavendish had won his historic 35th stage. So he'd just literally come across from the Tour de France with his other client. He's got many clients. Hayden's one of them. Mark Cavendish was on a high to the Olympics. But I know Simon was instrumental in putting that camp together, and your coach, former coach, long-term coach, Craig Kirkwood. But you didn't spare a dollar. You went all in. And what was that decision like? Was it something that you needed to get across, or were you just like, it's all or nothing for this?
Yeah, so I guess in context, so High Performance New Zealand, we have a camp in Spain, in Banyoles, which is a nice spot where a lot of people train. That's where Jan Frodeno used to live, and Australia and New Zealand have a camp there as well quite oftenly. But if you're not part of that camp, you've pretty much got to self-fund yourself through to the Olympics. I got a little bit of funding, but that essentially paid for my doctor, Sam Mayhew, who was pretty much looking after me just in case if we had some sort of protocol that I got sick or I got COVID, to make sure hygiene was to a top standard with the group that we had. So that paid for that, paid for my coach Craig to be over for about 3 months. But then also was that's when we kind of that pot of money dried up. So then everything else was on me to kind of source what I could get to be a high performance environment. So I got my friend Tom Mulai, who's a New Zealand runner, but unfortunately he was injured the whole time. But he was perfect. He got onto the bike and we were able to get the bike on the track, and he was it was pacing to perfection, which is great. So just having someone on the track and pacing me he was on the bike and I was obviously running on the running track. And then my friend Ryan Luff, he's an American triathlete, but and he's coached by Craig, and he's not a world beater. He's just World Cup, Continental Cup, but he's a great vibe and he's a very good friend of mine. And he'd do anything just to bury himself. So he was in the pool with paddles and fins and just giving it to me side by side. And then Sam Tanner, who actually went to the Olympics for the 1,500 metres. So he was kind of recovering from an injury, from an Achilles injury from there. So we, by the time he got to to Andorra. He was in some pretty decent shape, and then so I would support him for his tempo runs, and he would support me for my top end speed runs. So we had like a good collaboration there. And then obviously a few weeks leading in, we brought in Brad into the team, and then he looked after myself, but also Sam and Tommy, who was also injured. So Brad was pretty tied up with a couple injuries, but also making sure I was getting treatment every single night. To do that, we just said, like, mate, just take the car. But he was adamant that he'd bike down every day, and it's only 10k, but when you're 10k in Andorra, it's about a 500 meter climb every single night. So it's a 10k ride, but it's an hour climb to bike down, and then you would bike back up at about 10 p.m. and then do tally house until about 2 a.m. and then he would come back, and it was full gas. And we kept telling Brad, relax, take a day off. No, we're on. So yeah, Brad was probably the MVP of the camp, but and then the last asset was probably my girlfriend's friend. She was a nutritionist, and she cooked for us for 2 months. So that was I liaised with Red Bull, who's Stephen. He does all my nutrition, and essentially Stephen from Red Bull would send over like a weekly program. So he would go into my Training Peaks and tailor make me a nutrition program. And then she would pretty much try and get the carbs and the proteins, the fats and the fibers that I needed for that certain week or those certain days. So I could just train hard, come home, lunch is ready, and I didn't have to worry about just the little things, right? Like just making the small things that actually do take time to minimize that as much as possible. So it was to kind of get this real nice team, and like as I said, like, we didn't have any like world beaters or people in the triathlon space that were at my level, but I just had like a good environment, like good friends and people that would just be willing to bury themselves, that had like, they just wanted to be part of the ride. And as I said, like, we had Tommy there who, as I said, he lasted 3 days and then he was in bed for a week, but he would still come out and rip on the bike to get me dialing in the paces. And it was even Brad, like, he'd come to the track, and not for my session, but for the girls, you'd see the girls like Milan and my girlfriend Hannah doing laps of the track, and you'd see Brad on the back with a headband on and ripping it. And I don't know, it's just like, it was just such a good vibe. And I think that's super important, right? Like you can be in this high performance environment, and it can be like super toxic and super political, or else you can kind of move yourself out and just have like a really nice like environment. I think that was like the key, and I think that's the key that I really enjoy and really like, and that what opens me up to perform better is just having just a super nice environment. No one's like showing off and wanting to beat you by 1 second in like a 400 meter repetition or anything like this. Everyone has a goal, and they want me to win the Olympics, and the best thing that I can do for them is perform at the Olympics and show that I'm all in and I really want to perform for them. And then I think that was kind of the secret sauce for our Olympic prep. There was nothing special. It was just good times and good treatment, good food, good vibes. That's really, I can really put it down to, is just a good environment, right? I think is super important.
We had a funny little saying, high culture, and it was kind of taking the mickey out of the fact that, we knew there'd be programs with federations running things very professionally, and felt like at times a rag team bunch of people just, getting it done.
Absolutely.
But as you say, still with good structure and commitment from everyone. And I guess, and there's shots there from the pre-camp as well, and obviously infection control was a big thing. And that's Ryan in the back seat there. That's the Andorra track.
That's Tom there. He just got out of bed, I think, because he was in bed for about a week. And then I think Ryan got into bed because he got altitude sickness for about for the second week. So we were a couple men down, but we got the job done.
I remember getting there and you said, that's Tom, he's here to pace me on the run, but he's not running because he's injured. He's got an Achilles problem. Can you fix him? And you did say I was running on the track. I haven't run a 400 metre since. That might have been the last 400 metre rep of my life. My knees still haven't recovered. But I guess moving away from the Olympics and to post-Olympics, you then went to Taupo, or you won the grand final in Torremolinos, and then went to Taupo for the 70.3, shot at the World Championship, and put a gallant effort in there.
Same thing, 15K though.
And I guess most people probably saw that outcome, silver on that day. And there was a group chat at that race, and I was next to your sister and brother, and I can't remember who else at the time, but we were at the finish line, and the group chat from the Olympic group chat came through, and it said, "He's done it again." And everyone, I think, felt a bit sick in their stomach because we thought finally going to get, the gold, the world title, 70.3 title, and, commendable, brilliant effort from Yellow Geens taking the win that day. But that was a hometown race and lots of people there. How did you recover from that one and get going again?
Yeah, I think it was super nice. I didn't have many 70.3s under my belt, so I was kind of going in a little bit dark, and all I wanted to do was race at home. I was born in Taupo, and I was like, this is going to be sick, racing at home, you never get this opportunity. Why not give it a good dig? And then, I put after the Olympics, put a lot of investment into this one as well. Went to my TT setup, who lives in Germany. He's lives in Köln. His name's Ollie. And then he essentially got me dialed in. We went onto the velodrome and got a pretty dialed position, enough to kind of, get in to be competitive at that front end. And then, did a lot of sessions, and I went out and said I'd love to run a 65, and I went out at a 65 and came home not in a 65. I definitely probably think Taupo was probably one of the sillier places to try and attempt a 65 half. If you've been there for the Ironman or some or whatnot, it's quite undulating, but you also get a lake breeze as well, and the winds were not favourable. But also I think the ride felt fantastic. The swim, had a great swim again, and I think I misread my pre-race nutrition and was probably about 80 to 100 grams in deficit in the morning, which then led to hitting the 15K mark, coming up to my third gel of the race, and just already being, you want to stack up the your breakfast as much as you can heading into a race where you're going to be ticking threshold for a good 3.5-4 hours, and being quite naive and being it was my second proper 70.3. I probably hadn't really dialed my nutrition just yet, but missing a couple bits of jam on toast definitely I think affected me coming into the last 6K. But once again, I was just got to the 15K mark, and I was pretty gassed. I saw Sam, the doctor. I said, "I'm broken." And then I saw Yellow come, and I was like, "Oh man, I was gonna be jogging to the finish line." I think they had a pretty good gap, and I was just stoked to race in front of friends and family. It doesn't happen often. Being based in Europe quite most of the years, and just to race in front of friends and family, and was one of my last. It was quite a. I think it was quite a weird race for me as well. Because it was the last race I had with Craig as well. So the week before, I had the conversation with him that I would be parting ways with him, and the main reason why I did this is I just wanted to know that I just wanted to finish my career knowing that I've done everything I can to be the best I can possibly be, and that was to potentially find another way of training. We've been together for a good 12 years. 10 years more or less, and as you said, it's worked amazing for me, with the world titles to Olympic medals, and I just wanted to know that I've just got everything out of myself, and whether that's to go and look somewhere else in the coaching perspective and seeing what I can grab out, and but then also it could completely backfire and I could come and groveling back to Craig as well. And it was a hard conversation, and I wanted to give that last race a bit of a salute to him as well. And it was probably high-end emotions with racing in front of him, but racing in front of friends and family, and probably racing more with emotions and not tactics.
Yeah, I mean, leading into, you're a loyal guy, and I think that was big. It was a difficult time for you, making a coaching change. Craig was I guess, a pseudo-father for many of those years, through your development. From there, you've gone into this year, which many of us will know about this year, 2025, the great start and your first T100 in Singapore with a massive victory where you didn't race with emotions. It seemed like that was pretty tactical. Big victory there. Went into the first round of the World Series, finally chasing that world title that's eluded you, and won in Abu Dhabi in a sprint finish with against Australia's Matt Hauser. And then from there, you'd picked Tokyo for the road running event with obviously ASICS, one of your key sponsors, and you ran the just shy of the New Zealand national record that night, 11 seconds shy, 27:38.
Yeah, 27:38
on the road, which I think at that time the Triathlon world was saying that's the fastest 10K ever run by a triathlete. In essence, you broke the Australian record, you broke the American road record, but the Kiwi record just eluded you by 11 seconds, held by Jake Robertson. And we actually spoke that night on the phone, and you were obviously on a high. 2 weeks later, a week later, you were due to race the second round of the World Series in Yokohama. And the next morning, I took a call from you, and I didn't even ask you how you were, because we'd only spoken about 7 hours before, which is unusual. I just said, "How are your legs, mate?" I just assumed we were talking about sore legs. And you could tell everyone what you said in response to that.
As fashion Brad, he would always answer the phone, and he would just go, "How's legs?" And I'm like, "My legs are great, but my upper body is absolutely effed." This is on the side of the road, by the way.
So Hayden had just run in the back of the truck in Tokyo, and you could tell he was hurt. You could hear the winded sound in his voice, and he described the mechanism, and I immediately thought that possibly scapular fracture. I'd had a scapular fracture as a junior triathlete when I was 19, and a brain hemorrhage, and you were just labouring to talk, and so ribs, probably in there as well. And then Sam Mayu obviously was speaking with you as well, your long-term doctor from New Zealand, who was obviously at Paris in the pre-camp, and then it unfolded from there. So, Hugh, you've got some questions about the recovery journey. I'm going to throw to Hugh for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm obviously fascinated. I heard some of the podcasts with yourself and Brad around like the medevac flight and flying at altitude. The logistics of that, organising that, I would imagine were impressive feat in its own. From there, mate, over to Red Bull Centre in Austria, I believe. What from like day one arriving there to we all know what happened at London as well. Only 10 weeks later. Can you talk us through some of the stuff that you were doing from day one and up until that race?
Yeah, so I guess like a quick recap. Obviously, 4th of May, decided to just ram a dump truck. But I think there's a photo, I think I signed just for Brad later, but it's the bike that I've been racing on. So the bike was completely fine. The only scratch was on the grip bar tape. So the issue was I was looking to turn right, but I didn't know where to turn right. And I was in this 3-lane dual road at like 8 o'clock in the morning in Tokyo, and I completely calm, and I looked up, there's nothing there, and then I was just looking at my GPS too long. Truck went past and then parked up in front of me, and I look up and there it is, and essentially swerved. And then when I swerved, the bike completely missed, and then kind of wrapped around and then just went straight shoulder like 50k into the back of a dump truck. Fell on my beats, broke my beats, cracked a bottle cage. I was gutted about that because it flew off. And then was just on the side of the road, like luckily no concussion or anything, which was good, and tried to get up, and no good. And then moving forward was still kind of I was a little bit a little bit concerned, obviously, on the side of the road in Tokyo with no support, so to speak. So first thing, called Brad, said messed up, and then called the ASICS guys, who was actually, he's based in Melbourne. He came down in an Uber ASAP, and by that time he got there and the ambo was there, and at that point still coughing out a bit of blood, so you're a little bit kind of like a little bit concerned there because blood was still coming out, right? And then we found out that I blew my scapula, 6 ribs, a punctured lung, and 2 days later still coughing up blood, so still a bit concerned. I didn't really know what to do. So we had High Performance New Zealand on the call, and we have like a special insurance. So they were working with the insurance company, and they were trying to get me operation in Tokyo. but they didn't want to operate for 3 weeks. And essentially, if I did not get an operation within 7 days, I would be able to go about this high, and I wouldn't be able to swim again. So the key was to get an operation as fast as possible. And yeah, the biggest logistical thing was the punctured lung. So you're not allowed to fly with a punctured lung, or else it could expand and then, game over. So the option was to do a medical emergency flight, which is a private jet, which the air cabin is 1,000 meters. So it's super safe to fly, but that is 250,000 euro, so about $500,000 Aussie, which was if be all end all, I would have had to do it 100%. But then there was another option with a commercial flight where you put in an application within 24 hours. Qatar Airways accepted it, and that means the insurance company brings someone over who is a medical doctor, and they flew from Singapore or just anywhere in the world. But this specific guy came from Singapore, who was actually the T100 medical doctor in Singapore, so I knew him, strangely enough. And so he came over, and then he flew with me. So essentially, if my lungs did expand, he would stab me in the chest, and all is okay. That's what he pretty much said. Because he was like, you want to be stabbed, trust me, if it happens. I'm like, okay, sweet, cool. Because the issue with a commercial flight, the air pressure is 2,400 meters within the cabin, or it's like 2,000 meters, something like that. So there's a lot of pressure obviously on your body, and when you obviously come off a big commercial flight, your body swells a bit, and that's what would happen, would put a lot of pressure. And then at that point, the idea was to get the operation in Europe with the Kloss family. So they're highly known within Europe. They do a lot of the pro peloton crashes. So obviously they did my operation, and then they, a week later, where Jesper Philipsen had that massive crash in the Tour, they did his literally the day after as well. So they've got a super good reputation. They did Wout van Aert's knee. So I was in pretty safe hands, but they were super interested about this one because the whole family came. The whole family never comes, because normally they're just wrapping up and stitching up cyclists, and they don't have to worry too much. But the issue was there was a bit of the scapula that went into the rotator cuff, and if they did not get that right and get that seamless, I wouldn't be able to move my arm and get full rotation again. So when a Belgium is gloating about how good of a job they do, it's normally a pretty good job, because they never gloat, and I can say that because my girlfriend's Belgium, and she's pretty humble. So when they said I was a perfect operation, it was pretty cool. So long flight to Belgium, had the operation, head to APC, and was there for a good 2 months, more or less. And it was quite an experience. I've been to the Red Bull Centre maybe 5 times, but it's mostly for just testing. So I normally do my lactate testing or a performance test before the start of the year. But it was my first time being there as a wounded soldier. I guess, for me, it was I just wanted to get better every single day. That was the key thing. I wasn't thinking about a finish line or getting to a start. I wasn't thinking about getting to a start line. I just wanted to get to a place where I was super healthy and doing it in a responsible way. If I had my way, I would have gone full gas into it and get rotation within a week. But they were pretty on to me. So how that looked. So the whole week, I get a calendar every single week of how this looks. So I was getting 2 physio sessions a day for 2 months. I was getting laser therapy, microcurrents, gym sessions, and it was just crazy how much support you get there, and it just increased the rate of movement, the rate of recovery so much quicker. And I think just having confidence in yourself, saying I want to get to this place and I want to get to it safely, and having the confidence that you're around the best people in the world, just helps so much. And just to have those double physio sessions where one was more kind of deep tissue and one was more kind of a mobility, helping support that mobility, and just doing that every day and just seeing the results every day, and having an Ultra-G machine to run on, getting lunch made for you every single day, and just not worrying about the little things. You just have to turn up, and then they just look after you. And it was a super interesting process. But I was getting better and better every single day. But yeah, as much as you can improve your muscles, your bones also, they have to heal, and that's a thing that you can't really improve the increase of recovery rate. So we got to a certain point where I could definitely, push on, but for 3 weeks I could only do this, and they wouldn't let me go any further. So it was really kind of working this range of motion, then finally getting the full range of motion within the arm. But they were just doing all sorts of therapy that I've never seen before, and it was really interesting. And we were using a lot of where they put like a kind of like a plate on, so you're on the physio bed and they put a plate on your stomach, and they use like microcurrents, and they use their hand and they do this around your kind of the scar, and it's like microcurrents, and it heats up the muscle, but also kind of gets real deep into the scar tissue. And that was the most important part, was really working that scar tissue to get it really nimble and really soft again, because if that scar tissue isn't healed or recovered, it will cause problems in the future. But it was a lot was going on, and days were super full, and there was days where you kind of had those highs and you have those lows, but you just got to keep trugging along. And days got faster and days got good, and it was lucky we were in Austria as well, because it was always wet, so you're kind of forced to be inside anyway. And I guess looking into the next race, the doctors were pretty confident that I was going to get to London, and that's without, I guess, any setbacks as well. There was probably only one setback where they thought I might have had to get operated on again due to my lung. So at that point, there was still fluid in my lung from the lung. It was touch and go. So they thought the lung capsuled. So when the lung capsules fluid, they essentially will have to reoperate, open the lung, and get the fluid out. So that was a little bit concerning, because at that point my lung was only at 50% capacity on the left side. But then we went and did all these special tests with the special lung doctor, and got these super awesome X-rays, and it showed the lung in HD, and it was all these veins and everything. It was pretty sick, and that was cool. And then we went through all these tests, and he said I was good to go, and it should heal up. And at that point I had about 500 centiliters or something of fluid, and then it came down to about 100 in 2 weeks. So it was a little bit touch and go there, but I was able to kind of push through that.
Man, obviously no stranger to pain, being an endurance athlete. What were the pain levels like through that process? And then moving on from that, was there a milestone or points where you really noticed a big step forward in the rehab journey?
Yeah, so I think through the rehab journey was quite interesting. I feel like my main goal was not to have any pain medication through the day, so I could really know my limitations. But I had to take Triathlon through the nights, because at that point I just could not sleep because of my ribs. So I couldn't sleep on my back, couldn't sleep on my side, and it was a bit touch and go. So if you saw one of my first episodes of my vlog, I had that kind of cocoon looking vibe thing. That was honestly it's like an outdoor egg. It was the most comfortable thing. So if you ever have a broken rib, just go to Bunnings Warehouse or something and go and buy an egg. They're super good, It's so good, because they're you kind of fold in, and you're just nicely tucked in there, and it was great. And I was having 8 hours of sleep in that bad boy. And then I got to the APC and I just couldn't sleep, because it was my first time in 3 weeks on a bed, and I just couldn't sleep on it. So that was probably the hardest at some points. But through the rehab process, I think since the operation was done very successfully on the scapula, it was actually the least of my problems was the scapula, but it was just the ribs, getting up and down from core exercises or just moving around. That was probably the most irritating with the ribs. But I think the milestones was you just kind of get onto, the first days on the bike, you're on the indoor bike, and the first week you're supported with how we made this contraption looking thing, and I had a cast here and a hand there, and I was held up by black ropes with elastic ropes, and it was that was kind of holding all my body weights, and I was able to ride indoors. And then once you kind of got to that point where you could hold weight in both hands, and that was cool. And then you get to go on the Alter G, and then that was the third week was the Alter G, and you do your 2-minute run, 1 minute off, and that would go to 3 minutes and then 4 minutes, and you're just kind of always pushing that envelope. Yeah, just you as much as I really wanted to just go full noise, like you can't, and it was so hard to hold back, but you know that you're in the safest hands, and whatever they recommend is probably right, and you're just an athlete and you just want to do whatever you want, but it's probably never the best thing to do. So to just get held back a bit and let them take the wheel a bit was super insightful. But then it also taught me a lot about myself and you know, recovery and just kind of just relaxing a little bit. You know, like even though I did have a massive crash, it taught me, you know, rest is actually pretty good. And I think that was the biggest lesson I've taken out of this is I don't think I've had a break like this. Of course, it's forced rest, but I've never had a rest like this since, you know, probably for the last 10 to 12 years. And to kind of be forced to do it and just kind of sit back and relax a bit was actually quite nice. And then just having a different focus point of just getting better every day was quite interesting. And you know, as top athletes, we always look for the 1%ers, but to see those 1%ers every single day was super cool. And it's super hard to see that as a when you're at your top. You never really see those micro improvements, but you know, when you're coming back from zero, it's pretty cool to see it happen every day.
It's the I have a saying, injury is an opportunity, and it's like the silver lining of what was, you know, pretty terrible situation in reality. You've got the you know, the blessing of seeing that recovery is probably going to be, I'm assuming, a bigger focus of what you do moving forward. And mate, from that point, being held up by black ropes and struggling with a cast on to T100 in London, like what was your headspace going into that race like?
Yeah, it was interesting because like I was probably 3 weeks into swimming at that point, so. Yeah, that was the milestone was you had to operation, you'd take 12 days for the stitches to come out, and once the stitches are out, you can kind of get in the pool and start doing some sculling. And then from there, you do some one-arm swimming, and then 4 weeks later, the doctors gave me the good go to be able to let my arm fully extend, and then from there, we were kind of starting to learn how to swim with two arms again. And mentally it was tough. Like we're 4 weeks out from London now, and I said to the team, I was like if I make the call, 100% I'm going to race, but it's probably not the right thing to do. I need my coaches to make the call. So we said the 1st of August, I said we need to make the call, and you guys, if I'm there, let's do it. If I'm not, you just got to say I'm not ready. And every week I was getting better and better and better, and was able to start swimming properly again, and was able to actually swim under 3 minutes for a 200 meter, which was great. But normally, I'm swimming a lot faster than that, but those little milestones kind of keep you confident, and the running was getting less uncomfortable with the broken ribs and using the lever system a lot less, and was able to ride outside. And I was keeping real close contact with my bike coach, and he was saying, you're super close to where your numbers were in Singapore for the T100, so that was super positive. And then same with the running, I was getting quite close to my endurance speed to where I was in running 3 weeks before, and then the swimming was just going to be what it will be. We'll just see what happens with that. And we got up to the due date, and I said, what do you guys think? Are we ready to go? And by then, the numbers showed that I was in a pretty good state to be quite competitive within the race. And the main idea was, if I'm going to race, I need to know that I'm going to be in a position where I could win the race. So our numbers were kind of lining up with Singapore, and they said, let's go for it. Got to the start of Singapore, and I think the nicest thing, I just had zero expectations, and you're kind of playing a little bit of mind games and saying you're kind of come out with Sam Long and all this sort of stuff, and it was quite fun. And then you just play mind games, and then all of a sudden you come out in the first lap with the front group, and you get a little bit detached. And I think I came out about a minute behind, and I think I was just hadn't raced for so long. Well, for me it felt like an eternity, but it was only 100 days. so not too long, but, I just got onto the bike and just started ripping it, and I was like, probably a bit too quick on the first part, and caught up to Rico and me, Canute and Yella, and felt pretty good, and Rico went off, and I decided to go and chase him, and had a good gap on the rest of the field, and got onto the run, and the legs felt super good. And
he just has created this gravitas around him and his personality, and how he just seems to have joy as he makes his move right here, just before it goes up. And that's
clever.
Not even a try.
I really thought this is what he was going to do. He's come into the Excel Centre now. They're sheltered, even though they're slightly into a headwind. He's put an effort in up the hill. He's going to get the boost of the crowd, and then he's going to head out into the tailwind. It was a tactical piece of running. I mean, look at the gap he's put in there.
That's extraordinary.
Kiwi athlete is built of something quite extraordinary. Hayden Wilde, 2 wins from 2 in the T100 this year. What an incredible, logic-defying performance.
The rest was history. It was quite a race.
It was obviously a highly emotional moment, and Simon, your managers there, Hannah, Brodie Searle, who flew from Australia to capture these images, and has done the Hayden Wilde documentary series, which is on YouTube and worth a look. He was there. It was quite the moment. Yeah, it was a special moment, because there was a point where you look back and you're on the side of the Tokyo street and you're like, well, that's me done. I could hardly, and you get the news where, worst case scenario, you won't be able to swim again. And that was quite, daunting. I was like, I was looking, I don't know, it was a weird situation, because I was so hyped from the night before where I ran really well. But then I was on the other side where okay, what do I need to do to get these things in place? How do I get this operation as fast as possible? How do I get better as soon as possible? I was never thinking about I can never swim again, or poor me or whatever. My sole focus was changing mindset straight away. What can I do to get better? And I think that's what helped me a lot. And I think the mental side is huge in recovery. I think a lot of people underestimate how much the mental side is huge. If you're feeling a little depressed, or you're feeling just non-motivated, your body just feels real average. But when you're vibing and you're feeling good, and you've just if you've nailed a session, or you've completed a task that you've been trying to do for a long time, and you're really hyped and you're getting onto it, or you listen to Fisher and you're feeling pumped on the physio table, you're feeling good, it gets your morale up, right? And that's what I was just trying to do, just every day, just try and think positively, and I think that helps hugely, and I think that's what helps me recover so fast. But just having all those people that helps me get from Tokyo to London, to that start line, and having them, most of the people there, obviously a few people were missing, but I know how much the sacrifice that they put in to try and get the best for me was quite emotional for sure. And just a tip of the hat to the team once again. I do the racing, but there's so much more people in the background that help kind of get me to where I am today. And then you've gone on through this, you've gone on this year to be undefeated in the T100 series, with starting with London, 97 days after you hit, whatever you said, you're back. What did you say? You took out the truck. Took on the truck in Tokyo. Then from there, so Singapore, London, undefeated, and then to French Riviera, and then recently Spain, where you ran the fast 3:07 pace off the bike. 3:07s? Yep, for the fastest run split ever in the T100. And now you're heading to Wollongong this weekend for racing Saturday afternoon, which would be 5 in a row for the T100. How you feeling about that? You're pretty relaxed. Obviously, that you then race the World Series the next day, which, as you mentioned before there, unfortunately this year you're not in contention for the world title. But what's the mood like going into this race? Relaxed or feeling the pressure?
No, I feel good. I think I'm definitely I'm an athlete that rolls on confidence, and when I get a good race, I'm into it. I feel good and feel ready to go. But I think my main sole purpose coming to Wollongong wasn't the points. I wasn't looking to come to race for the points, but it was actually more to come here and work on the strength. I know I still have a lot to work on the shoulder. It's still not where I want it to be, and but which is fair enough. It's only been 5 months, but I'm very impatient, and I really want these things to move forward a lot faster. So this is what the main reason why I came here to do some swimming with a good swim squad, but also to come see yourself and just kind of get those numbers. So now you've got those numbers, and we can kind of work with, I guess, a solid base. But then heading to Wollongong and just having a good time. Like, it's the grand final, and it brings a lot of people. There's a lot of age groupers there as well, and I think that's something quite special with triathlon. Is there's not a lot of sporting events where you get to race with just people that love the sport, right? So it's going to be a nice weekend, and looking forward to the challenge. I've done the double once, but I think this one's going to be a bit more difficult because France was a sprint. This one's an Olympics, so see how the body pulls up. But I feel like I think I'm in a more of a better space of where my swimming is. I think it's a lot better, but the last few races has been pretty challenging, especially on the World Series side. It's just like a different beast. You get in that washing machine, or I can't actually get into the washing machine at the moment because I'm not fast enough. But I hope, it's just like, I just want to turn up to the World Series. Like, I just want to turn up. I don't want to be afraid of it, because I know I've had great success in the World Series, but obviously I'm on the back foot at the moment. But I think the best thing for me personally is to make sure I go to these races and just turn up, and I might get my ass kicked, but it's just part of it. Like, I know that hopefully one day that I'll get back to where my swimming was. I remember in Torremolinos, as we talked about before, I was 8 seconds back off the leader, and right now I'm probably about a minute 45 off the leader. But there was only there was only not even a year ago. So I know it's there, but I just have to keep turning up and not be scared of the challenge. And it's always humbling. It's always nice to get smashed by the other guys, and it just keeps you hungry, I think.
Anything you want to ask about LA moving forwards?
I think everyone will agree. You seem like a pretty nice guy, pretty humble, and I always find it fascinating and a little sad when people want to take shots at you, but it seems like you're having success, and I think there was like a little bit of shoe stuff going on, but like any reason anyone can have, they try and throw a bit of controversy your way, because I feel like because you are so good. How does that affect you? Like that's kind of like the dark side of being a pro athlete. There's a lot of hype on social media. You're exposed to that. I'm assuming you are aware of that. Like, how does that kind of stuff affect you?
Absolutely. It sucks as well. Like, you read the comments, like, you might slide into on my DMs, and I might not reply sometimes, but for sure, all the time you see those comments, but you just gotta mentally switch off. Like, I think it was there was a quote that I kept reading when I was going through that time. I was feeling like pretty rough, because I was like, your boy doesn't want to cheat. I just wore some shoes that the coding was wrong, like, and then they were just putting me under the bus. And I think the funniest part was that Casper Stones, and then the guy that was ripping into me, his wife won in those shoes as well, which was great. But just the quote was like, you gotta stand by your morals, and a good guy is not a yes man all the time, right? You just gotta stand by yourself. And I know that I can go to sleep at night knowing that I always do the right thing, or at least try to do the right thing. And I just love racing, and you just gotta block those things out sometimes. And it sucks for sure, but it's just, I guess it just happens when you're at the top. You're just so exposed to everything, and anything that you do, either like minutely bad, you'll get nitpicked for, and you'll get challenged for. But it keeps you on your toes, and you just gotta block it out. And I think it was the first time I ran over the finish line in Spain where I was not smiling, because I was pretty pissed off, to be honest. But you try and I think the most important part is try not to upset me, because I'll race pretty aggressively.
Don't annoy the beast. Don't poke the bear.
But it's just part of. I guess it's just part and parcel of it, unfortunately. And you just gotta. It's just one of. I guess it's one of those things that people don't teach you, right? Like the social media side. It's so part of our lives now, and you just gotta try and block it out. And yeah, as I said, like as long as you can go home and sleep well, I think that's the most important part, right? And just wake up and just train harder.
Well, I think you're massively entertaining and a big asset for the sport in, what can be quite a serious sport. So having personalities like yourself in there makes it really entertaining to watch, and especially when you can back it up and actually perform. Brad mentioned, but and you said yourself, obviously changing coach, you have been exposed to maybe some new techniques in the Red Bull Center and part of this last little process. What will you change heading into LA?
Yeah,
I think Pursuit for Gold, add the collection, mate.
Yeah, I think the most important part was I've had a good conversation with Brad, and we've taken on the boys, and Shannon Eckstein will teach me how to open water swim. I think that's the most important part. Is I think to save as much energy in the water, I need to swim fast but swim efficiently, and that's been like a big working on for me as well, is getting an efficient stroke. So working with Shannon and the boys, and hopefully doing some more sessions here in the Gold Coast, and just learning off the best in the world here. And with Brad, learning, he's got what's the swimming technique that you've got now?
VidSwim. We've just launched a stroke analysis up at Southport.
So we went there to VidSwim yesterday, and it's just like full cameras left, right, and centre to really like critique your swim stroke, and we already got some gains from the swim vids there as well, which has been great, and now I can kind of take that away and use that and have some cues that I can use within the pool, because sometimes I don't always have a coach on deck, and then I think just working on my weaknesses in the bike. Like I have some weaknesses where I need to work on my sprints, so it's just working on the P-Max and making sure I can learn to flush lactate out and recover well, and then just learning how to run faster for longer instead of blowing up at 1.8k, 9.8k. That's the goal.
Well, we're all going to follow the journey, obviously, with great interest, and thank you for coming out tonight. Race week, 2 races at the end of the week. We're going to throw to a Q&A, a couple of quick announcements. These shirts might raise a few eyebrows, a boner a day. There is a story behind it, and Hayden's face is on the back, but since I've known Hayden since he was a grommet coming through the sport as a teenager, we met at Super League in, I think it was Malta. Hayden was an 18-year-old aspiring athlete, and Chris McCormack, who former Ironman champion, world champion, one of the founders of Super League, has always been big in developing junior talent, and he really wanted to get Hayden as part of the series. He could see what talent was there. Anyway, over the years, I've always been a physio, sports physio, working with endurance athletes. You're working with bone injuries, or you're working with torn muscles, but often bone injuries are the most devastating for triathletes. So part of that has been an education process, to trying to get athletes thinking about it. And we have this concept of energy availability. If an athlete falls into a lack of energy, they can be up to 6 times more likely to develop a bone injury, 15 times more likely if they've got low bone density. So one of the things I've always said to Hayden, women get it easy. They have their menstruation cycle as a sign if they're falling behind in their energy availability stakes. Blokes fly under the radar. But one of their signs is boners. If you get a boner in the morning, you're probably pretty healthy on the energy availability stakes. So it's been something I've said to Hayden and many other young male athletes trying to get their attention over the years. A boner a day keeps the bone stress away. So these shirts are quite funny, but there's a really serious point to it. So we sort of thought with this night tonight, we'd launch some limited edition A Boner a Day t-shirts. We know it's misspelt, but when I caught up with Hayden on the other side of the crash, Hayden had a can of tuna, I think Italian tuna, Bonner, and he held it up, and I, before I could even ask the question, we both started laughing, and I said, all right, we're going to get that on a t-shirt. We'll have it ready for you to go in Australia. So we've got some at the front if anyone wants one at the end of the day. There's only 50. They'll be out in force at Wollongong on the weekend. Hayden's mother, Sarah, messaged me and she said, do you mean I need to wear a shirt of my son's face with boner on the front? I said, you don't have to, Sarah, but she said, I will. So all of Hayden's family will have them. But yeah, there's a few there at the front if anyone wants to grab one. The other thing we want to make time for tonight as well is a Q&A. Q&A, let's do it. So fire away.
Coming from a running background, in exercise science degree, I just started doing performance testing out of here. And a lot of the runners are worrying about their LT1 and LT2 and the VO2 max and trying to get all the logistics around it. Could you give us any idea what the VO2 max in your LT1 and LT2 is?
Well, to be honest, I don't even know what LT1 and LT2 is. I'm not gonna lie. Like like I just see it. Like everyone's like they put on Strava like LT1 run. Like what is even an LT1 run? I think I've always been like back with like now I'm a little bit more science data driven because of my new coaches and they're quite science data driven. But Craig and I, we were so just like pulled back. We're just like you blow, like you're not going to be doing your lactate in the middle of a race. Like there's no point. Like you know your thresholds in pace, you know your thresholds in heart rates. Just go to that, you'll be sweet. I've obviously done lactic testing and all this, and it wasn't really like you look at it and you're like, cool. What does that mean? But like for example, like I would do some sessions and like at the start of the year, so like pre-Singapore, like I was like a 1.8 millimole for like 3-minute pace. I don't know what that is, but
Your aerobic threshold.
yeah, so yeah, there we go. So that's what it was at the start of the year. But I haven't done a VO2 test in years. I'll keep you guessing. Brad knows what it is.
Obviously, I wouldn't breach confidentiality, but I do know it's the highest ever recorded in, I think, New Zealand and Australia.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of an engine.
It's
It's nearly triple figures.
No Christian Blumenfeld, though.
I also know Brad's got a pretty high VO2 max.
Absolutely.
From our university days, he got called a Formula One engine by the...
That's why he kept up with Richie Port and the boys.
Wasted that. And I deeply regretted it. When I turned 40, I actually went through probably about a year of depression, realising I never used whatever talent was there. And it was on that ride that Richie Port and Cam Worth turned to me. And Richie Port was probably the highlight of my sports career. Richie Port, and I quote, said, "You're a bit of a hard bastard, aren't you?" We're going up the second climb for the day. So I actually went home, called my wife and said, "Honey, I feel validated now." Richie Port just said I had could go okay. So but no resume like yours. Other questions up the back?
There's a lot of junior athletes here in age group of athletes. Do you reckon you could just go through quickly a week of your training or even just volumes or something?
Yeah, so for me, it's honestly it's pretty basic. Like I normally try and range between, for me, which is a good sweet spot. Like everyone's different, but for me, it's around 25 to 28 hours. I know there's a lot of social media out there that goes up to 30 plus, but for me, I just like doing that 25, 28 hours. I feel I can get a lot out of that. You're not overdoing it, not going over 30. You still can have like a life to yourself and how that looks. My weakness is obviously swimming. So I'm swimming about 6 times a week and I'm getting about between that 4 or 5K for running. It's more or less kind of a little bit less. So I'm running about 5 sessions a week. I think running, you've also, as triathletes, we have so much volume. So there's no point in doing a lot of junk mileage in the run. And I think being such a high body weighted exercise, it's also quite risky for us to do a lot of running, and which could put us out for quite some time. So I feel I run about, for me, 70k, 80k weeks, just keeping it relatively low because I know I get a lot of that zone 2 work, zone LT1 work from my riding, and then for my riding I'm riding about 5 times a week as well, which ranges anything between 2 to 4 hours more or less, so nothing too extreme. And session wise, how that looks, you do your classic 1 long run, that could range between an hour 20 to an hour 45. 2 run sessions, 2 swim sessions, and 2 bike sessions, so keeping it relatively standard. And nothing super special, just consistency. Touch wood, I've never had a stressy before, but I think that's coming from not overtraining or overdoing it, and just really thinking about yourself and knowing yourself is super important. Like you don't need to do world record sessions or hold on for dear life, because that would just kind of put you more and more and more into a deficit. So a lot of people, sometimes they come train with me and they will try and do my run session and try and hold on for me, but for me it's really easy, but for them they're really kind of opening that envelope, and then vice versa. Like I go and do a swim session with a squad or with other triathletes, and I know I'm just not as good as them, so I will pull back, because if I go with them, I'll just bury myself, and then that fatigue will carry on and stack upon each other. You don't want to keep going to the old to the bank and pulling out money that you don't have, right? Like you want to save and within reason. You want to keep it consistent and really stack those bricks and just keep consistent, because I think being consistent and not doing world record sessions every single week is more important than doing world record sessions and then you're out for 3 months. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I think that's super important, is keeping as consistent and knowing your limitations, and not looking at other people and saying, oh, if they're doing 30 hours, I have to do 30 hours. It's, find what's good for you and go from there, I think.
Other questions, and I think that's testament. You, apart from your trauma from the crash this year, you hadn't had any long-standing injuries per se, and remarkable 28 years of age now and never had a bone stress injury. So that's credit to the way you approach your training, your long-term coach prior to the last 12 months, Craig Kirkwood, and now your current coach is Fred Vernew in the swim. Solar, who is Tadej Pogacar's bike coach, so he's taken Hayden on, which I think is pretty speaks a lot about yourself. And then also Gary Luff, who's married to Paula Radcliffe. Paula was the former world marathon record holder, British runner, and also coach Gary Luff, coach of Mo Farah. Most of us will know Mo, so Gary's taken you on as his run protege. Maybe I might just preempt a question here, because I think it feeds into Kai's question about training. How does having 3 coaches at your level work logistically?
It's interesting. I think for me it was I don't think no one's really done it before. If someone's done it, I haven't heard of it, but I think it's quite difficult to do. I think there's 3 big elements that you need to make it work. I think number 1 is you've got to make sure you find the right coaches. And how I mean the right coaches is like they have you tell them the goal, and your goal is obviously you want to get better, but no coach will be above another. I think that's super important. There's no hierarchy here. Like everyone is playing level. I think that's super important. Another one is knowing yourself. I think training by myself for so many years, you kind of find your limitations and you know what you can and can't do. So knowing that, and then the next one is communication, is probably one of the biggest ones. Is we have a WhatsApp and we communicate every Friday, and obviously we communicate throughout the week individually as well, but we have a group, and I'll say we go in the group chat and make sure everyone's put their trainings in Training Peaks, so they're all connected to my Training Peaks. And how we normally do it is my run coach Gary will go in, and then he will put the running in. It's the more body intense, high volume, with the higher impact of running. So he'll put this in, and then with my bike coach Harvey, the good thing about Harvey is he has a triathlon background, so he molds the biking around the run. And then with Fred, I've worked with him for 5 years, so now he's really understanding how everything works, and then he'll put the swims in and put it there, and then from there that pretty much goes in on Friday night. And then I'll look at it myself, and then I'll go, all right, this week looks pretty good, but my Friday looks like I'm going to die. So I'll switch that, move this around, and then just say to the coach, hey, I've moved this just to make my Friday a little bit more relaxed to head into a big Saturday. Is that all good? And then everyone's normally on a pretty normal, everything's sweet. And then, it's just communication's key, right? Like, if you're feeling a bit gas, you just pull back a bit. If you're feeling really good, you can kind of push a little bit. And there'll be times where we have a bit more volume on the swims. So that's when Fred will go in and kind of put the volume up on the swim a bit, and then that would decrease the riding and the running. And then I might want to do a bit more running because I'm training for a 10K. So we just increase the volume of the running and decrease the other ones as well. So there's a lot of kind of push and play, but also there's a lot of respect in the group as well. And then coming back to where Simon is, my manager, he's also in there as like the devil's advocate and reminding the guys if your Friday sessions aren't in, you get a slap on the wrist. So he does the devil's advocate side for me, and I just play thumbs up, good to go kind of guy. So it's a really good combination, and no, I'm really enjoying it. It's definitely been an experiment, but it's been really cool. And then obviously yourself is kind of my top physio, Sam, the doctor, and then Elizabeth, who is my strength and conditioning coach in Red Bull. She normally gives me my strength exercises with a little bit of help from Brad. And then my nutritionist, who's also in the group chat as well, and who's also in my training peaks. So you have about 6 people that are connected to my training peaks. So if we're going into a peak race, everything is kind of organised-ish with a grain of salt. So it's an experiment, but it's been good fun. It definitely keeps you on your toes and keeps you honest and keeps you kind of, working hard.
I think that's part of your character. You're not afraid to do things different, and it's a credit to you. Questions? Any other questions for the evening? Just been up over the back there. Mick Ferris. Mick's a coveted developer of junior triathlon talent. Come up from the Tweed Coast today, so thanks for coming up, Mick.
This weekend you do a T100 on the Saturday and the World Championships on the Sunday. How do you manage the specifics for the bike getting ready for both those races?
You don't.
You prioritise
Yeah, I guess it's a hard one, right? Like, I guess for me, like my priority is T100. So I feel if my priority was more in the World Series, I would probably do more prioritising on the bike sessions within the World Series. But I feel like how my efforts are in T100 to my efforts are in World Series are relatively quite same. Obviously, World Series will be a bit more crit circuity, a bit more punchy. So there will be maybe 1 or 2 sessions that I would do anyway within the week that preps me up for kind of high lactate removal. But then obviously the TT is more a sustained effort. But in the last few races in the T100, the first 40K kind of feels like a World Series race anyway, because you got Rico Bogan doing relentless attacks and everyone's trying to hold on. So when you look at the profile, it's just like bam, 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 like the whole for like 40K until the elastic kind of snaps a little and everyone starts kind of relaxing. Like, lads, we've still got like 80K, like take it easy. So yeah, I feel the T100 and the World Series really cater for each other, and it kind of, as I said, like it just depends what you're really targeting. But for me, this weekend would be probably more TT specific, and I'm only getting on the TT bike maybe twice a week, more or less, so not too much. And I'm naturally blessed with a good hip rotation, so I don't have to get on the TT bike or do too much stretching to get into quite an aggressive position.
Other questions, training related or injury recovery related? I look around, I know there's many in the room that have gone through their own, injury recoveries. And feel free, Hamish Physio, and also donated a prize tonight, which will be given out. We've got a bunch of prizes, including from Polar, so we'll do that. Yeah, good, best questions.
This one's coming from Nick Willis. He said if you exclusively ran and focused just on that, would you be a faster runner, or do you think your volume of swimming and cycling sort of contributes to your...
Yeah, I think...
Can you just give context? So Nick Willis, a friend of yours, Hamish, his career, what did Nick achieve?
I've raced with Nick a couple of times.
He 5-time Olympics, a silver and a bronze.
In the mile. 1500, sorry.
One of Kiwi's favourite sons.
Absolutely. I think I for sure could run a lot faster, because the bike does hinder the run performance quite a lot with the different sort of like muscle abilities, I guess. But I feel for sure it's good to probably do, like if I wasn't going full gas in the bike all the time, I think riding is if you're just a pure runner, I think riding's fantastic for just to shake the legs out and have that recovery rate. Also, you'd obviously like tone down, obviously when you stop swimming a lot, you'd tone down the top end and you get a lot lighter. So I feel but I also feel that swimming is fantastic for recovery as well. just because it's like low body weight and you can still get the body moving quite well, but you'd obviously swim a bit less, so you'd trim up a bit instead of being a little bit more like top end heavy. So I think I could definitely run a lot quicker. I wouldn't say a heck of a lot quicker, but for sure you could shave a few seconds per K off. But I guess that just comes with being a little bit more leaner on the top, I guess. And yeah, when I did that Tokyo run, I felt like one of the bigger fellas there. It was pretty crazy. The runners, they don't have much to them, but they can pump out some serious power. But I feel like maybe just a little bit, yeah, not too much though. I just feel just that multi training is super important. If you're a person that can't do a lot of mileage on the run, I feel there is a lot of guys like Geordie Beamish. They're doing a lot of who just won the steeplechase in the 3000 for the World Champs. You know, he's doing a lot of biking at the moment. Sam Tanner does quite a bit of swimming with a little bit of biking on the side as well. So there is a lot of those, especially those 1500 meter guys are doing a lot of cross training at the moment.
Other questions? We definitely want to create the opportunity. I can see Jackson sitting over there with your trademark hat on, IP in pools. I do have one, and we were going to get a token one for Hayden, but we didn't get it in time.
There's two people in the world. There's people that pee in the pool and people that lie that they don't pee in the pool.
I think you heard from the horse's mouth. But feel free if there's any other questions. Please go Christine first and then yourself. So, yep.
When you changed, like such a big decision to change from a long-term coach to a different system, is that something that you really had to, like, did that thought process take a long time for you to say, I've got to make a change, or is it something that just...
Yeah, I was absolutely dreading the conversation. It was pretty hard, like, as Brad touched on, he was like a father figure to me, and it was super tough. And when I was in the car with my partner, I was like, oh man, I don't know if I can do this. Like, this is rough. And then like it was really tough because I just went into his house as I normally would, and we sat down on the table and we just had like just a classic normal conversation. And then like it was at a point where I was like, damn it, I've just made way too much small talk right now. And then I broke the news, but his wife was there as well, and I could just see the heartbreak, and like I was gutted. Like it was like it was the hardest conversation I've had in my life for sure. I don't recommend it at all, but I knew that. Yeah, as I said before, like I just want to know that I want to finish my career and make sure that I've done everything I possibly could, and it could be a terrible idea for sure. But at least I knew it was a terrible idea, or it could be, you know, it could be an idea that potentially got me that percent that I needed. But you know, I've cherished those moments with him, and yeah, it's you know, we're still in talking terms as well, but also, you know, it's still a little rough a little bit, just because like we're just so close, and it's quite hard to have someone just invested in your life so much. To then kind of pull back a bit, it's quite tough. But yeah, I'm pretty sure in time it will be sweet as. But it was pretty hard, not gonna lie.
You've had such great success so far. Thinking about some of the things you've learned over your career, what would you tell yourself at different stages, starting out, developing, and that sort of thing, to keep yourself either on track or improving?
Yeah, I guess through my career, I feel like I've learned I've probably learnt more the races I've lost than I've won. Like for sure, I've probably lost more races than I've won 100%. But you learn a lot from those, and they make you a lot more hungrier. And like I feel like it's quite nice when I go to World Series and currently, you know, getting my ass kicked from these high performance guys that are just like killing it at the moment. And it's really good for me because, you know, I'm going in T100, and you get in this kind of, you know, this bubble of safeness where you're like, yes, like, you know, you're kind of in this dominant, you know, phase, and you're like, I really need to go somewhere else to show that I'm not the best in this area. And I think that's super important to be uncomfortable. Like, yeah, of course I'm doing quite well in the T100, but like my end game is LA, and you know and I need to continue to be for myself irrelevant within the racing there. And I think there's been a few athletes through the years where they've stopped World Series racing, or World Triathlon racing and gone off and done Ironman and stuff, and then come back and they've missed 2 years of, you know, these young under 23 guys or other guys that we've raced in development, and they've just missed the bus of speed and pace, and I don't want that to happen. So it's super important for me to keep learning and knowing that the swim pace is a lot faster now, and the run pace, that everyone's getting a lot faster now, and the sport is just increasing and getting faster, and it's just making sure I turn up every day and making sure I just tick the box that I'm getting a little bit better here and I'm getting a little bit better there, because I know that my competitors are for sure getting better, and they'll do what they can to try and take me down, but I'm also there to try and get them as well. So it's always kind of a pulling game of who's got to wake up and give it a little bit extra.
Please.
So you've obviously had your experience growing up in hockey and then into multi-sport. You've had, a tap at some pretty speedy runs. What is it about triathlon that you love and that just keeps you motivated in your sport in particular?
It's a hard one, because I do a lot of the training by myself, but I don't know, I just love the sport. I just see it as like a bit of a hobby, and I just want to get better all the time, and I loved hockey. I felt like that was going to be kind of like my pathway and going really well there, but I don't know, I like the challenge of being accountable for yourself, and when you're in the when you're playing hockey, we're in a team sport, so to speak. You've got to be the best you can be on the field and do your job, but you've also got to hopefully rely on the others to do their job. But with, I guess, triathlon, it's all on you in some ways, right? You've got the accountability of you're on the race field, you're waking up and doing the sessions, you're doing them correctly, and I kind of like that accountability, and I like pushing myself and putting myself in a, so to speak, in a hole, and just kind of keep digging in a good way, and just trying to get those little things out of myself every single time. And as much as it hurts, and training hurts obviously all the time, it's always nice to then race and see that success come out as well. And if it wasn't a good race or you didn't have a good day out, I know that I always come out of races and I just feel fired up for 2 weeks, and you just rip until the next race. So I don't know, it's just that kind of that cycle of wanting to improve and wanting to just be better than the next day, I guess, is kind of what I like about it.
Is that how you came out of the Olympics? Because I imagine after the Olympics you probably had some, it would have been challenging. I think the whole world kind of was looking at you. It's easy, you said LA is the next target, but how long did it take you?
Yeah, it's a hard one because, a lot of people feel the Olympic blues, and it's it's a real thing. You're just being full the mentality and full gas on this one competition, and whether you're there just to compete for your country or whether you're there to go for a medal or whatever your goal is, it just takes a lot out of you. And there was it was only probably after a few races where I got beaten in one of these races and I got taunted again, and that kind of fired me up. And then I kind of snapped out of it and just started going full gas again. But there was a few weeks where you kind of just I really just can't be asked. And it's it's a lot of Olympians feel it, and it's a real thing. Because it's a goal that you've been chasing for your whole life, and whether it's your first time, I think the second time is a little bit easier, but the first time, I was rough. It takes a long time to kind of kick out of it. But I don't know, you just got to find something that sparks your flair again and what drives you, and then you go from there. But I feel the first time was for sure super hard. It took months to kind of get back into a rhythm, and then I don't know, I just felt the first time I just didn't want to hurt. You just get into sessions, your body just restricts you to hurt itself, and then you kind of get over it at some point and just clicks a little bit, and then you're good to go. But the second time wasn't as bad for sure, but it's it was a weird feeling. But I don't know. Yeah, I know that LA is going to be, well, not qualified yet, but LA is going to be my last go. So I'm I might as well put all my eggs in one basket and go for it. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, Like, at least I know I gave it a good go.
I think we'll finish this with one final question from Huw, and then I have one, and then we'll do the prizes. We've got some great prizes. I remember in that period, though, I was a bit concerned about you. Obviously, that was a pretty big day on the streets of Paris, and I knew you wouldn't want to talk much. I think I sent you a WhatsApp poll. How are you feeling? Thumbs up, one selection. Something neutral, and balls was the third. And Hayden's response was balls. So I knew you weren't feeling very good at the time. So, you certainly do ride the highs and lows. Huw, final question from yourself, and then I'll finish with one.
Mate, there's a few young athletes in the crowd here tonight. If you could wind back the clock back to young Hayden Wilde, what would you say to that guy?
Yeah, I haven't really been asked that question too many times, but I think just don't change. I think that was the most and what I'm really proud of myself how I've done it is just don't change as a person. Stick to what you know, and as successful as you are, you're not bigger than anyone else, right? And you're just going to keep you're reminding yourself that, and I think that's super important, and I think that goes a long way, ethically, but also with partnerships and people you meet, and just as a person, just be yourself, and if you have a goal, go for it. I had the decision to go to university or go full time in sports, and I know a teacher told me one day, a sports teacher was like, "You've only got one body, use it." As Brad said, he got to 40 and was a little bit depressed because he had this talent that he didn't go for. Where I had the decision to go to uni, and I was like, I had a full run scholarship and fully paid for, but I was like, but I know university was never going to go away. Not saying you should go to university, but I really wanted to pursue my sport, and I had a big goal. And if it didn't work well, as I said, university was there. Doesn't matter what age you go to university, right? You're studying once again probably at the moment yourself. It's always going to be there, but your body is just going to get old, and it's going to die away. So why not just rip it?
And with that somber thought, we'll call it a night. Last question, end of your career, Hayden. What do you want people to say about Hayden Wilde?
The guy that, I don't know, the guy that wore illegal shoes that weren't illegal. No. I don't know, I know, just a guy that just fully centered all the time and didn't hold back, and just had a good time doing it, really. I think that's what I want to be known for, is just to, lick a post note and send it.
Lick a post note and send it. Well, thank you for coming out. It's race week, and you've been very generous with your time, and thank you for the questions. And for people attending, we pull this together with 10 days notice. Hayden's schedule can be pretty pretty varied, and so trying to lock a date down was tricky with the big week that you've got ahead. So thank you for making time, and thanks for everyone for supporting the event at late notice. We've got the bonus shirts at the front. If anyone wants one, I think one of the team will be able to help you at the desk. There's only 50, so get around them, support Hayden. They're $40. And then the other things, we've had some great people throw in some prizes. So I don't know how we're going to do this. Lucky draw, Jazz, or should we do a few games? Let's start with a game. What 10K time did Hayden run in Tokyo the night before the accident hitting the back of the truck? Oh gosh, that was good, Harry. Harry, your first question, first answer there. Ross from Polar, brilliant brand. Ross represents the brand nationally. Has donated a. Can you just tell us what you've donated, Ross? It's
new Polar Loop.
Polar Loop. Thank you, Ross from Polar.
You guys have any controversy with Strava, or do you have any controversy with Strava at the moment? Good. You can still use Strava with it then.
Hamish Vickerman, proud Kiwi, who is a uni mate of mine. We went through uni together, and he's gone on to develop some world-class foot and ankle products, including the fasciitis fighter, which is used by every major sporting team in the world. Pretty much every clinic in the world has a fasciitis fighter. So, how many T100 races has Hayden won this year? Oh, well done. What was your name, sorry? Tina, I reckon you get the most of the package there, hey, from Hayden. So well done. Hopefully you got plantar fasciitis. Good for foot strength.
Absolutely.
Good for foot strength. Okay, here's another one for this time. It's for a full assessment with Huw Darnell, strength and conditioning coach, exercise physiologist. Some decent value behind this, so thanks, Huw. Who took the gold in? Sorry, mate, it's a bit mean, isn't it? Who took the gold in Paris? Oh, well done. Sorry, it was just getting rid of the prices. There we go. This is a bit trickier, and it might be for the real tri geeks in the room. But who is Hayden's videographer making the Hayden Wilde YouTube? Oh, Tamara, well done. This is for a, what do we got, Jazz, this time? Pogo voucher, $100, and running book I wrote 10 years ago, so hopefully that helps.
Amazing.
It hasn't been printed 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that's all our prizes. Yep, so well done. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. And thanks again, Hayden and Huw, for tonight.
Thanks, Huw.
Thanks, Hayden.
Thank you. That's a wrap.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys. So there you have it. What an absolute blast that evening was. Thank you for those that supported the live evening. Thank you for our sponsor for today's episode, the Rehab Mechanics. Jump over to the rehabmechanics.com.au, use the coupon code TPPS20 at the checkout, and take action to ensure your foot health is optimized. Massive thank you for the team that make this show possible. Daryl Misson, our audio engineer, Susan Wilkin, show administration, Matthew Walding, show graphic design, Ralph Mayu for our YouTube channel for this week's episode. Be sure to jump over and you can see the event captured in full. And of course, those that attended the live event, thank you for your questions. What a terrific night we all had. Until next week, keep pursuing your physical best performance. This has been Brad Beer and Huw Darnell with the Physical Performance Show.